You walk through the door exhausted. He's already home on the couch, scrolling through his phone, sink full of dirty dishes, laundry still sitting in the washer. No dinner started. And you don't even take your shoes off. You head straight to the kitchen. Because you always know if you don't do it, nobody will. Has this happened to you? That moment when you look around and realize that even though you're exhausted, even though you're running on empty, you're the one who's going to handle everything? Because waiting doesn't work. Because asking is more exhausting than just doing it yourself. Because in the end, it always falls on you. Now imagine something different. You walk through the door, exhausted. He's tired too. But the dishes are already done. Dinner's already cooking, the house is picked up. And when you ask, did you do all this, he looks confused by the question. Because of course. Because he lives here too. Because taking care of the home is his responsibility too. Sounds impossible, right? Sounds like science fiction, sounds like something from a movie. But what if it wasn't? What if a marriage like that existed? A marriage where you're not the only one managing everything, remembering everything, doing everything. What would a marriage look like if chores were actually split equally? Not on paper, not in theory, not in that promise he makes and then forgets, but for real, in practice, in the daily grind that's draining you. Today we're going to imagine together. We're going to dream for a few minutes. We're going to visualize a life that seems far away but should be basic, the minimum, normal. And it might hurt. It might hurt to realize how much you don't have this, how much you do alone, how much you carry, how much you deserve and don't have. But it might also light something up. A hope, a good kind of anger, a certainty that you're not asking for too much, that real partnership is possible, that you don't have to live like this forever. Take a deep breath and come with me. In a marriage where chores were actually split equally, you wouldn't always be the first one up. It wouldn't automatically be you who gets up when the kids call at night. It wouldn't be obvious that you're always the one starting everyone's day. There would be mornings when you'd wake up and coffee would already be made. Not because you asked the night before, not because you set everything up, but because he knows how to make coffee too. He also sees that the kids need breakfast. He also understands that making breakfast is whoever wakes up first's job, not just yours. There would be mornings when you could take a shower without rushing, without having to run out because nobody else is watching the kids, without having to yell from the bathroom, put his shoes on, because you're the only one who cares about leaving on time. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine taking a peaceful shower without guilt, without rushing, without having to manage the house from inside the bathroom? In a marriage like that, you wouldn't be the only one who remembers everything. You wouldn't be the family's human Google. Your head wouldn't be the filing cabinet for everything that needs to be done, bought, scheduled, handled. He'd also know when the pediatrician appointment is, because he also schedules them. He also makes them. He also takes the kids, without you having to remind him, without you having to confirm, without you having to text, don't forget. He'd know the milk is running low, because he also grocery shops. He also checks the fridge. He also notices what's missing, without a list, without you having to tell him, without you having to manage even what needs to be bought. He'd know his mom's birthday is next week, because it's his mom, because he calls her himself, because he buys the gift himself, because he plans the dinner himself. Without you having to do everything and him just showing up. Have you ever imagined this? Have you imagined not having to remember everything, not having to be everyone's living planner, not having to carry the entire family's life in your head? What would it be like to really rest? Not just your body, but your mind too. To turn off, not think, not plan, not anticipate. Because there's someone sharing that weight with you. In a marriage where chores were actually split equally, you wouldn't have to ask for help, because help implies it's your job and he's doing you a favor. But it wouldn't be like that. It would be shared responsibility, obvious, natural. You wouldn't have to do that little dance of asking nicely for him to do something that's his obligation. You wouldn't have to thank him like it's a gift. You wouldn't have to praise him like he's a child who needs positive reinforcement. He'd just do it, because it's his house too. Because they're his kids too, because it's both your lives, not just yours. The dishes would be washed without you asking. The laundry would be folded without you having to say anything. The bathroom would be cleaned without you having to beg. Because he also sees it, also notices, also cares. Have you tried to imagine a life like that? A life where you don't have to manage even the help. where you're not the household manager, delegating tasks like it's a company. In a marriage like that, you'd come home tired and you could just sit down, simply sit. Without that guilt, without that mental list of everything that still needs to be done, without that weight that if you don't do it, it won't get done. Because he got home too, he also sees what needs to be done, he also does it, without waiting for you to do it first, without waiting for you to ask, without waiting for you to manage it. You'd sit on the couch and he'd ask, "You hungry? I'll start dinner." And he would, for real, not ramen, not something from the microwave, but real food, because he knows how to cook too. He also planned what to make. He also bought the ingredients, or you'd cook together as equals. One chops, the other cooks. One washes, the other dries. Talking, laughing, sharing not just the work, but the moment, the partnership, the life. Can you remember the last time cooking felt light, felt like partnership, felt like together? Or has it always been you alone while he relaxes? In a marriage where chores were actually split equally, you wouldn't be the only one who sacrifices, the only one who gives up things, the only one who puts everyone else first. There would be nights when you'd go to bed early and he'd stay up with the kids, not as a babysitter, not as a favor, but as a parent, as the responsible one, as an adult who shares raising the children. There would be Saturdays when you'd go out with your girlfriends and you wouldn't have to prep everything, wouldn't have to meal prep, wouldn't have to leave instructions, because he knows how to take care of his own house, his own kids, his own life. You'd leave and come back without anxiety, without constantly thinking if everything's okay, without having to text asking if they ate, because you trust him, because he's capable, because he does it. When was the last time you went out without guilt, without worry, without having to prepare everything beforehand? In a marriage like that, you'd have time for yourself, not stolen time, not guilty time, but real time, time that's yours by right, because you also deserve to rest, also deserve to take care of yourself, also deserve to exist beyond being a mum and a wife. You could read a book without being interrupted every 5 minutes, could take a long bath without having to rush, could do something just for yourself without feeling like you're being selfish. Because in a real marriage, real partnership, both people have the right to rest. Both have the right to self-care. Both have the right to exist as individuals, not just as parents or partners. Can you imagine having real time for yourself without feeling like you're stealing it from someone, without feeling like you should be doing something else? In a marriage where chores were actually split equally, you wouldn't always be tired, you wouldn't always be at your limit, you wouldn't always be one step from a breakdown, because the weight would be shared, the exhaustion would be split. The responsibility would be on 2 people, not just one. You'd sleep better, because your mind wouldn't be running through the to-do list. You'd wake up lighter, because you wouldn't have to start the day already overwhelmed. You'd live better, because you'd have energy to live, not just survive. You'd have patience with the kids, because you wouldn't be depleted. You'd have affection for your partner, because you wouldn't be resentful. You'd have joy in your life, because you wouldn't just be existing on autopilot. When was the last time you felt light, rested, with energy to spare? Does this marriage seem impossible? Seem like utopia? Seem like something that only exists in movies? But it shouldn't. It should be normal, basic, the minimum. Because you're not asking to be served. You're asking to have a partner, a companion, someone who shares life with you, not someone who's another child for you to take care of. And maybe you've never had this. Maybe you don't even know what it's like. Maybe you think you're exaggerating for wanting this, but you're not. You're asking for what's fair. What's right? What should be obvious? You know what would be different in a marriage like that? How you'd feel. It wouldn't be that bone-deep exhaustion, that tiredness that never goes away, that weight you carry alone that nobody sees. It would be different. You'd feel seen, valued, like a real partner. You'd wake up and not feel that tightness in your chest, that anxiety about everything you need to do, that fear of not being able to handle it all, because it wouldn't be just you handling it. It would be both of you together. In a marriage where chores were actually split equally, you wouldn't have to choose between career and home, because home would be both people's responsibility, not just yours. You could accept that promotion without guilt, without fear of not being able to balance everything, because he'd also balance. He'd also adjust his routine. He'd also make concessions. It wouldn't always be you who quits when the kid gets sick too often. It wouldn't always be you who turns down business trips because there's a school conference. It wouldn't always be you who gives up your dreams because someone has to take care of home. It would be taking turns. It would be partnership. It would be both of you building life together, not you giving up yours to support his. Have you given up something important because of the house, because of the kids, while he never had to choose? In a marriage like that, you wouldn't feel that quiet rage, that resentment that grows slowly, that hurt from doing everything and nobody seeing it. You wouldn't have to swallow your irritation when he complains he's tired after a workday. When he worked 8 hours and relaxed, and you worked 8 hours and came home to work 8 more. You wouldn't have to bite your tongue when he says he'll help out around the house on the weekend, like the house is yours and he's doing you a favor, like he doesn't also live there. You wouldn't have to pretend you're not furious when he's on his phone while you're doing 1,000 things at once, because he'd also be doing things, also be busy, also be taking care of the life you built together. Have you stored up a lot of anger? A lot of resentment? A lot of hurt from being the only one who does while everyone else just receives? In a marriage where chores were actually split equally, you'd have time together, real time. Not you exhausted trying to give him attention after giving attention to everyone all day. You could sit on the couch and watch something together, without you getting up every 5 minutes to handle something, without you with half your attention on the TV and half on your mental to-do list. You could really talk. About you two, about life, about dreams, not just about household logistics, about who's picking up the kids, about what's needed from Target. You could connect, for real. As people, as partners, as a couple. Not just as roommates sharing responsibilities where one does everything and the other does nothing. When was the last time you had a real conversation that wasn't about the house or kids, that was about you two? In a marriage like that, you wouldn't lose your identity. You wouldn't become just the kid's mom or the homemaker. You'd keep being you. You'd have time for your hobbies, for your girlfriends, for your dreams, because he'd also take care of the house, also take care of the kids, also make space for you to be more than a mum and wife. You could take that class you always wanted, could pick up that project you abandoned, could have your own life. Because having your own life wouldn't be a luxury. It would be a right. It would be obvious. And he'd really support you, not just with words, but with actions. Making dinner on the nights you have class, taking care of the kids on weekends so you have time for yourself. Encouraging you to chase your dreams, not just dream about his. Do you still remember who you were before becoming a mom, before becoming a wife, before disappearing into the roles? In a marriage where chores were actually split equally, you wouldn't feel alone. Even living with someone, even sharing a bed, even being together. You'd have partnership, companionship, someone who sees you, who understands you, who notices when you're tired without you having to say it. You'd have someone who comes home and asks, "What can I do?" without you having to ask, without you having to think, without you having to manage even his help. You'd have someone who notices you're at your limit and says, "Go rest, I've got everything today," and actually handles it, without needing instructions, without half-assing it, without you having to check later. Have you ever felt really taken care of, or has it always been you taking care of everyone? In a marriage like that, you'd smile again. Not the forced smile you put on for people, but a real smile. The one that comes from inside. The one you can't even remember anymore. You'd have energy again. Not just energy for obligations, but energy for life, for joy, for light moments, for being happy. You'd sleep peacefully again, without that anxiety about everything you didn't get done, without that worry about everything still ahead, without that knot in your stomach that never goes away. You'd live again. Not just survive, not just get through days on autopilot, but really live. With presence, with lightness, with pleasure. Do you still remember what real joy feels like, or has it been so long you forgot? Maybe you're thinking, but this doesn't exist. This is impossible. No marriage is like this. And maybe you're right. Maybe most aren't like this. Maybe you've never seen a marriage like this up close. But what if it could be? What if some already are? What if it were possible to build this, not overnight, not without effort, not without difficult conversations and real changes, but possible, because equal marriages exist, true partnership exists, real division of chores exists. It's just not common, just not normalized, just not what you were taught to expect. But it should be. Should be the minimum, should be normal. And you deserve to have this. You don't deserve less. You don't have to settle. You don't have to accept crumbs and call it partnership. If this video is touching you, if you're feeling a tightness in your chest because you realized how much you don't have this, stay here. Stay with us. This channel is a space for tired women, overwhelmed women, women who do everything alone and nobody sees you're not alone, and you deserve more. But let's be honest. Let's talk about what you're feeling right now. Maybe it's anger. Anger at realizing how much you don't have this, how much you do alone, how much you deserved and don't receive. Maybe it's sadness. Sadness seeing that another way exists, that it could be different, that you didn't need to be this tired. Maybe it's hopelessness. That feeling that this is beautiful in theory but impossible in practice. That it'll never change, that you'll live like this until the end. All these emotions are valid. You can feel what you're feeling. You don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt. You don't have to smile and say everything's fine, because it's not. And it's okay that it's not okay. You've spent years doing everything alone. Years carrying a household on your back. Years being strong without being able to falter. Years handling it without being able to complain. And nobody told you that you didn't have to live like this. Nobody showed you another way exists. Nobody gave you permission to demand more. But I'm giving it to you now. You can demand more. You can ask for real partnership. You can want actual division of chores. You're not asking for too much. You're asking for the basics, what's fair, what's obvious. And if you don't have this, if you live in a marriage where you do everything and he does nothing, you have choices to make. They're not easy choices. They're not comfortable choices, but they're choices. You can try to change things, can sit down and have the difficult conversation, can explain for the 1,000th time that you can't do this anymore, can ask, no, demand that things be different. And maybe it'll work. Maybe he'll really listen this time. Maybe he'll really change. Maybe you'll build together that partnership you always wanted. Or maybe not. Maybe he'll resist. Maybe he'll promise and not follow through. Maybe he'll make an effort for 2 weeks and then go back to normal. Maybe he'll make you feel like you're exaggerating, that you're asking for too much, that you should be grateful for the little he does. And then? What do you do when you've tried everything and nothing changed? Then you have to decide. Decide if you can stand living like this forever. Decide if it's worth continuing. Decide between staying and continuing exhausted or leaving and having peace. There's no right answer. There's no manual. Each woman needs to make her own decision based on her life, her kids, her situation. But what I can tell you is, you don't have to stay just because you're scared. You don't have to stay just because everyone expects it. You don't have to stay just because leaving is hard. You can choose yourself, can choose your peace, can choose your mental health, and that doesn't make you selfish. It makes you human. Have you thought about this? Have you thought that maybe you deserve more than you have, that maybe staying is harder than leaving? But let's also talk about another scenario. The scenario where you're not married yet, where you're still dating, where you can still choose who you'll share your life with. Pay attention to the signs. Don't marry thinking he'll change later. Don't marry expecting he'll mature. Don't marry potential. Marry reality. If he doesn't split chores now, he won't split them after you're married. If he doesn't notice what needs to be done now, he won't notice when you have kids. If he thinks housework is women's work now, he won't change his mind with a ring on his finger. People can improve, can grow, can learn, but don't count on it. Don't base your life on it. Don't sacrifice your peace for it. Look at how he treats his mom. If he lets her do everything, he'll expect you to do everything too. Look at how he splits chores now. If you live together and you do everything, that's how it'll be for the rest of your life. Look at how he reacts when you ask for help. If he complains, if he resists, if he drags his feet, that's the partner you'll have. Are you paying attention to these signs, or are you closing your eyes hoping it'll be different? Now let's talk about what you can do. What's in your control? What can change starting today? First, stop doing everything. I know it seems impossible. I know you feel like if you don't do it, it won't get done. I know you were taught that good wives take care of everything. But you're not a maid. You're not his mother. You're a partner, and partners share. Choose one thing, one task, one responsibility, and stop doing it. Simply stop. Leave the dishes in the sink, let the dirty laundry pile up, leave the floor unswept, and see what happens. Maybe he'll do it. Maybe he'll notice and take over. Maybe he'll finally understand that the house is his responsibility too. Or maybe not. Maybe he'll let it pile up. Maybe he won't even notice. Maybe he'll wait for you to get tired and do it. And then you'll have information. Information about who you're living with. Information about the kind of partnership you have. Information about what you can expect for the rest of your life. Information is gold, because you can't change what you don't recognize. Second, speak clearly. You can't drop hints anymore. You can't wait for him to read your mind. You can't have infinite patience. Sit down and say, I can't do everything alone anymore. I need you to take on real responsibilities, not help me. Take ownership, without me having to ask, remind, or manage. Be specific. Don't say, I want you to help me more. Say, I want you to own dinner 3 nights a week from planning to clean up. Don't say, I want you to be more present with the kids. Say, I want you to handle bath and bedtime every Tuesday and Thursday. Don't leave it vague. Don't give him room to say later he didn't understand. Be clear, be direct, be firm, and don't accept excuses. Don't accept, but I don't know how. You didn't know either and you learned. Don't accept, but you do it better. He'll only get better with practice. Don't accept, but I work. You work too. Third, don't redo what he did. Even if it's different from your way. Even if it's not perfect. Even if you would do it better. Because if you redo it, you teach him it's not worth it for him to do it. That in the end you'll do it the right way anyway. That it's easier to just leave it to you. So he made dinner and it was undersalted. Eat it undersalted and let him learn. He did laundry and mixed the colors. Let him wear stained clothes and learn. He cleaned the kitchen and left it messy. Leave it messy and let him see. He'll only learn if there are consequences. If there aren't, he'll keep half-assing it so you'll do it right. Fourth, take care of yourself. Even if the house is a mess, even if there's stuff to do, even if you feel guilty, take an hour for yourself every day. Read a book, take a long bath, do your nails, watch your show, whatever makes you feel good. And don't ask permission. Don't ask if you can. Don't wait for the right moment. Just do it. Because you matter. Your rest matters. Your mental health matters. And if the house gets messy because you stopped doing everything, let it. A messy house doesn't kill anyone. Exhaustion does. Fifth, get support. Don't stay alone in this. Talk to girlfriends, get therapy. Join groups, read about division of labor. Learn about mental load, because when you're alone you think the problem is you, that you're not handling it right, that you're exaggerating. But when you see other women going through the same thing, you realize it's not you. It's the system, it's the structure, it's how we were taught to live, and that gives strength. Strength to demand more, strength to not accept less, strength to make real changes. Do you have girlfriends going through this too? Have you really talked about it? Sixth, be prepared to make hard choices, because maybe none of this will work. Maybe you'll try everything and he won't change. Maybe he'll promise and not follow through. Maybe he'll put on a show for a while and go back to normal. And then you need to decide. Do you stay and accept it? Do you stay and continue unhappy? Or do you have the courage to leave and seek something better? There's no judgment here. Each woman knows her life. Each has her reasons to stay or go. But what you can't do is pretend everything's fine when it's not. Can't kill yourself working and still smile like you're lucky to have a man who does nothing. You deserve partnership. You deserve real division. You deserve rest. And if you don't have that where you are, you have the right to look elsewhere. And we've reached the end. But before you go, I need to tell you some things. First, you're not crazy. You're not exaggerating. You're not asking for too much. You're asking for the basics. What's fair? What should be obvious? Second, you're not obligated to live like this. You don't have to accept doing everything alone. You don't have to settle for crumbs and call it partnership. Third, you deserve more. You always deserved it. And no matter how long you've lived like this, It's never too late to demand change. Fourth, change is possible, not easy, not quick, not without resistance, but possible, if he wants to, if he really cares, if he understands that losing you is worse than splitting chores. Fifth, if it doesn't change, you have choices. Difficult ones, painful ones, scary ones, but choices. And you're strong enough to do what needs to be done. Sixth, you're not alone. There are millions of women living exactly this, exhausted, overwhelmed, doing everything alone, and all deserving more. Seventh, this channel is for you. This space is safe. Here you can talk about your exhaustion without being judged, can admit you can't do it anymore without being called weak, can dream of real partnership without being called demanding. If you made it this far, if this video touched you, if you saw yourself in every word, let me ask you something. Leave a comment. Tell me, do you have real partnership or do you do everything alone? What do you most want to change in your marriage? What do you dream about most when you imagine real division of chores? Because I want to hear you, want to know about your life, want to be here while you fight for what you deserve. And if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe now. Hit that bell, because here we're going to keep talking about this, about overload, about division of chores, about tired women who deserve more, and share it. Share it with that girlfriend who does everything alone, with that cousin who's exhausted, with that acquaintance who needs to hear she's not crazy, with that woman who needs to know she deserves more. Because the more women know it's not normal to live like this, the more women will demand change. And the more women demand change, the harder it'll be for men to keep doing nothing. Now answer me one last thing. If you could change one thing in your marriage right now, what would it be? What would relieve you most? What would give you the most rest? Think about it, write it in the comments, and after that reflection, go talk to him. For real. With clarity, with firmness. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait to have courage. Don't wait for him to notice on his own. Because he won't. Nobody will. Only you can start this change. And look, I know it hurts. I know it's exhausting. I know it seems impossible to have to fight for the basics. I know you wished it were natural, that it were obvious, that it were without having to ask. But life isn't fair. The world isn't fair. And you need to fight for what's yours by right, for your rest, for your peace, for your life. That's not just survival. What would your marriage be like if chores were actually split equally? It would be lighter, it would be fairer, it would be happier. You'd be more rested, more present, more yourself. And you deserve that. Deserve to wake up without that weight. Deserve to live without that exhaustion. Deserve to have a partner who's a real partner. So go. Go fight for it. Go demand it. Go seek it. Because you weren't born to serve. You were born to live. And really living includes rest, includes partnership, includes fair division. And if where you are doesn't have this, if you've already tried everything and nothing changed, remember, you have the right to look elsewhere, to start over, to choose yourself. Because in the end, you only get one life, and you can't spend it doing everything alone while pretending everything's fine. You deserve to rest. You deserve partnership. You deserve to live, not just survive. And I'm here, this channel is here, this community is here, to remind you of that whenever you forget. You're not alone, you're not wrong, you're not asking for too much. You're asking for what was always yours by right. And it's time for you to have it go. And come back here to tell me how it went, because I want to know. I want to celebrate your victories. Want to support you through the difficulties. Want to be here on this journey with you. What would a marriage look like if chores were actually split equally? It would be how it should be. How it always should have been, how you always deserved it to be. And it's time to turn that